morning, everybody, and welcome to the GSM's Pride. This week we are heading to a podcast. So one of my good friends, actually my tax guy, believe it or not, he's actually a teacher for, I think it's just really business school, generally speaking, but he's kind of an entrepreneur, does a bunch of stuff. He's also got a YouTube page, which I'll put in the description below, so you can check it out. But he does a lot of things about leadership and whatnot, and I think that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So I'll be heading out there real quick, and we're going to go and see what all that comes up to. So I'll see you all in a bit.
On this episode of A Call to Leadership, I am thrilled to have you join me on a very important topic: motivation and inspiration of our people in our organizations. How do we even begin to motivate people when we have a blanket set of rewards that we think will satisfy everyone in a tangible way? That's just not how business and people work. We're going to unpack that. I've invited an expert on the show, Jason Catlin. Can't wait for you to join me. I'm Dr. Nate Sala, and this is A Call to Leadership. Jason, so good to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for bringing me on. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of humbled a little bit that you thought of me to come onto your show.
Absolutely. You know, you and I have been connected for so many years now, and we share a desire to do the best possible work we can do. I heard it said that everyone is selling, and it's such a difficult phrase to accept because there's a negative stigma. So what is the perception of someone that's in sales in automotive from the general public?
It's tough at times because a lot of people have this assumption and there's the stigma behind the car industry that really doesn't exist this day and age. It just doesn't. I have a passion to change that opinion of what people think about the car industry as a whole. Because at the end of the day, all we're doing is providing a service that people require. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I try to address with clients myself is, I didn't come and knock on your door. You came to me. I'm trying to just provide the service that you wanted.
Yeah.
And that's something that's hard to get over at times.
Well, I've heard it said like this, that people don't want to be sold, but they love to buy.
Correct.
And I try to phrase it in ways that, all business is problem solving. If there were no problems to solve, we wouldn't have any business. We'd all be out of business.
Yeah.
So as you said, someone comes to you, they have a problem, right? And my responsibility, my role is to provide a service that helps you solve that problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that changes the dynamic of the relationship, because when you're selling, if you will, right, air quotes, then it can be an adversarial relationship because you're trying to take something from someone, at least they're perceived. You're trying to take their time and or their money or both. But when you're solving, it goes from adversary to ally.
See, something you said there that really rings true with me is relationships. I'm talking about salespeople specifically, that it's all about the relationship. People don't buy from companies. They buy from people. They buy from people they trust, the people that they believe are trying to do the right thing and trying to solve the right problem. I'll use this very strong word. You've got to figure out whether it's a transactional purchase or if it's an emotional purchase. And that's where it becomes a little difficult, and teaching that to the younger generation of getting them to figure out with that customer, is it transaction or is it an emotional purchase? Because if it's transactional, they're very hard. They're the hardest ones to really win over and become a friend, because they look at you as just literally like a retail store and say, okay, I'm just coming in to purchase a car and I don't need to have a relationship with you. But that's not our industry, unfortunately. It is all about relationships. It just is. I don't know if you've heard of Simon Sinek.
Of course, yeah.
So he has the golden circle, which I'm sure you've seen. And it's exactly what we're talking about. The what, the why, the what, the how. Well, everyone that sells generally speaking go how, what, why. And I'm trying to teach my guys, it's not about all that. It's about the why. And what I try to make them understand is there's one thing knowing what your why, but there's another thing knowing what the customer's why is.
Yeah.
Why are they buying that car?
In fact, okay, so let's do some role playing. Okay. My son's 15 now, and I come in and I say, I need to get a car somewhere around $10,000 to $15,000. Obviously, it's going to be a pre-owned car.
Yep.
And what's your next step for me? What would you ask me?
So my next step really would be, first off, the way I do things is a little different to most. We wouldn't even talk about the car. If you were somebody I didn't know, I would try and make a friend. First off the bat, I would literally take the selling aside. I wouldn't even care about the car. I would talk about you. I'd talk about your son. Most people talk about their families and they're proud of their families, so they'll talk about them. And I'll kind of get you to warm up to me a little bit first. And then I'll transition. I'll spend 5-10 minutes just building what we call building rapport. And then I'll go back to finding out really what it is you're trying to achieve. Is it that you need a reliable car because he's going to college, or what is it that you need that car for? In your head, the idea is to build the car in your head, so then you know which road to go down.
Right.
And that's where most people who get in the industry this day and age, it's tough because they only see it as a transaction, and it's not only a transaction.
I love how you stated that, people don't do business necessarily with companies, they do business with people. And the reason why we discuss this around sales leadership is because some of the aspects of what you just described are exactly what leadership is. One, you were in a motion of discovery, because leaders are discoverers. They have to discover where the follower, i.e. the customer, desires to go, so that they can influence that individual to go along that journey so that they can achieve it and reach a better future state. That's 99% of leadership is about creating an environment to where we can foster people along that journey and reach it, at least effective leadership.
So I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's something that the reason I'm kind of grinning here is because it's something that I try to instill in everybody, even especially when I promote someone to a manager. I always like to promote from within. And the reason being that I do that is because it's my responsibility to walk them through that. And that's what a lot of managers don't necessarily understand, that just because you've become a manager, that doesn't make you above anyone else. In fact, if anything, your responsibility just became a lot greater, because now you're not worrying about what you're doing. You're worried about what everyone else is doing and how they're succeeding. Every day when I go into work, my goal is to make sure that everyone else is succeeding. I've always told my managers specifically, don't tell them, go show them. Go show them what to do, and they'll absorb it way faster. And then not only that, we go back to the relationship part. When you're leading a salesperson, let's say, you go show them how to do it, their respect elevates real fast.
Yeah.
Because not only do they realize, well, he didn't really do that for himself, he did that for me.
I think you're touching on these important aspects of this entire leadership philosophy that's been growing. And I've actually been doing a small mini series on it on our show called Servant Leadership. It's a whole philosophy around leaders operating to serve those who follow them. And I think you're touching on that, even as you're talking about how you go through a process of not just telling your people, but actually walking them through the process through example. Because what you're doing is you're saying, you're important enough for me to devote my time, because I'll never get this time back. And of course, yeah, you're being paid, but you can be doing something else. And you're saying, I'm going to allot this time, and it's just for you. It's just for you, so that I can make you better at what you do. And then you move from transaction, from the relationship in your business with your employees, to transformation, because they're being transformed into somebody who has more skill, more ability, more opportunity. And that is something that stays with them forever.
So that's it for this week's vlog. The podcast was absolutely awesome. I had a great time with Nate. I really appreciate you, Nate. I hope you get to watch this. I've thought about doing podcasts before in many times, and thought about doing one myself. I probably won't do anything too much in the future, but it was out of this world. I really enjoyed myself. I thought it was a great time. I thought the content was great. It was cool to talk to someone with very similar-esque opinions and talk about things that really were close to my heart, and I really kind of got to go a a little deep with some of that stuff. So I really, really, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it too. It was absolutely awesome. If you haven't, check Nate's podcast out. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check that out. Up on this side, I'm going to put up a video just so you can click through that and help me out on my YouTube page. On this side, I'm going to put up a link to my subscription for the GSMS Pride. Please, 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 please subscribe. Top corner, blue fuse forward, same again. Please subscribe to that. Hit that like button, hit that post notification button, and I'll see you all next week.